Hey, Nerf Herder, I'm Addy Thomas.
I'm Ben Milton.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Certain Point of View as we wrap up 2018 and go
Happy
into
New Year,
2019,
Nerf Herders.
right?
Woo! Yeah!
That is awesome. And one thing I'm really excited about is the comics we're going to be talking about today. But before we get there, I want to remind you that you can go to our website, check out a bunch of the other podcasts that are part of Certain Point of View, and that includes Another Pass, The Scruffy Nerf Herders, Funny Games with Matt and Jeff, Reignite. That includes some of our streaming. And more recently, that includes an opportunity to join us on Discord and join the conversation with us and hang out with us and just chat up with us anytime you feel like it. So even though, we no longer really talk about Marvel movies and all the movie news in the nerd world
on this podcast,
we're always down to talk about that stuff on Discord. So you can join us there on our website. Just go and check out the links for that, certainpov.com. You can check out all of the other things that all of our other nerdy podcasts at Certain Point of View are talking about. Again, certainpov.com. All right, let's go ahead and get into this Darth Vader comic. This is one I have been wanting you to read for a while now, and at the end of about 2 years...
It's finally happened.
Yep. Because fortunately, the
run is over.
Yeah, the run is over, and it is a great ending, a solid ending to a great series.
Yeah.
We were pretty impressed by the first Darth Vader series.
Yes.
That came around, the Kieran Gillen one.
Mm-hmm.
That picked up right after A New Hope. This one, on the heels of that, it's just like, well, how can you
possibly top that?
Right? Well, issue number 1, it does it.
It's like, and here it is.
Right?
This is what you're in for. It's a fantastic ride. It really is.
Yeah.
I power read my way through it. I started Saturday.
Uh-huh.
And I think I read like the first 5 or 6, like right out of the gate. And then I had family stuff that I had to deal with. And so I didn't get to do much of anything else till late Sunday. And then I did some streaming, so I couldn't read as much as I wanted to. And then today I had to work. And then as soon as I got home from work, I was like, Jenny, grab my Kindle. We're taking the kids to the pool. They're going to swim, and I'm going to read. And I just plowed through them.
Yeah.
They're like all, let's see, there's 25 issues. I read 12 of them today.
Okay, nice.
And it was great.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Any moments in particular that really stand out to you that you remember you really liked? For now, pick one, but we'll see if we come up with some more.
The thing that struck me the most was the moment when he destroys the database with all the Force-sensitive kids.
Yeah.
On it. Like, that was the one, like, throughout the whole series, like, he's pretty cold, unfeeling, mechanical almost, and then like you have like these moments of humanity in him, either of rage or compassion. And there's not a lot of that. Like, no. This is the one moment. This is sort of the one moment.
Yeah, they're very sparing with his moment of compassion.
Yeah, but it was a really powerful one.
Yeah,
it was like a quiet resistance to what was happening to him.
Do you think part of him was like, I'm keeping this out of the hands of Palpatine? More, I actually thought of it in some ways as partly as a self-preservation
mechanic. Yeah, for sure. For sure, and I mean, and that's what the Jedi angled that into, of like, well, what do you think he's gonna do with all these Force-sensitive kids?
Right.
Where does that leave you, boy?
Yeah.
And the way that she treated him was interesting.
Which, by the way, how cool? I mean, whoever made a badass librarian? I remember Jocasta Nu just being like, okay, this is the librarian, the Jedi librarian in Attack of the Clones, and then occasionally you saw her in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
They really, like...
They fleshed her out into, like, a full-fledged character, for sure. And an interesting one. The other thing that really struck me really wasn't so much Vader and all of the, Empire characters, but the Jedi themselves that he comes across.
Yes.
And how flawed they all are.
Yeah. And how they each are sort of dealing with Order 66.
Yeah. Yeah, in their own ways, but it also, like, Order 66 like magnifies the flaws that made the fall of the Jedi possible.
Yeah,
with each of them, like their hubris, their like with the librarian, like her desire to like accumulate all this knowledge is ultimately her downfall.
Right.
You know, and what destroys her school, her plans for a school. So yeah, I it was interesting how they handled all the Jedi. I think that was honestly my favorite part, was just like seeing like, oh yeah, like these Jedi were clearly messed up, had clearly stepped off the path, and this is what allows them to be defeated so easily.
Yeah.
By Palpatine and Vader. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the like this is really sort of Vader year 1, and
it's longer than that though.
It is, but it like
stretches years.
Functionally, it's Vader year 1.
Yeah.
I really like. I mean, the moment I felt this series, like the series really got me. Like, I mean, okay, the initial moment, the first couple panels, the reinventing the no moment, was really cool.
Fantastic.
Like already, that was like, oh wow, this is
made it actually mean something.
Yeah, this is really cool. Like already, you're setting up Palpatine and Vader's tenuous relationship. But the moment that really I felt like just kind of wow was, you go from issue 4 where he destroys an entire village to get what he wants, and sort of that whole fight where he rebuilds himself in his suit is so cool. But I love that in issue 5 he sort of has this re-exploration of like what would, like, if he could take everything back, you know, what would he have done? You know, but then knowing that and seeing that and then still making the decision, like, it almost felt like this was his true commitment to the dark side. It almost felt like before was like there was this conditional thing.
Right.
You know, and the whole series still kind of deals with that. Like that, I like that the whole, like, him still trying to save Padme is still something that comes back up by the end in that last issue.
Yeah, and the way that Palpatine manipulates that.
Yeah. But I really do. I think the decision there is where it really kind of takes full force, and I really love the depiction of the dark side. The sort of the dark side landscape, his meditation.
Yes, where he's like it's like Hell Starry Night.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and his arms and legs are just like glowing appendages.
Yeah, exactly.
To the burnt up body that's left of him.
But it's still very much there functionally, just not. You know, it's there through the Force.
Yes.
It's not there.
It's not actually
physically.
There. Yeah.
Which I think is such a cool representation of just how strong-willed he is.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of other cool things.
When he's speaking of the meditation, like the scenes where there's like little butterflies coming into the meditation, like the good of the Force like still seeping in, and that showing that conflict in him, was interesting. It was a really visually interesting way to show that that's still inside him and that he's dealing with all of that still.
Exactly. And this is a series that, you know, it's very easy to look at the plot and be like, oh my god, wow, this is amazing, some really good character stuff. But I think that's one thing, like, those details artistically, I love that issue 25 to wrap up this series is very much an artistic conclusion to this run. Rather than like, okay, let's have, you know, a big fight. Let's have, you know...
So let's get right to it, because issue 25 was very much talked about on the internet about like, oh, they confirmed it. Palpatine is the one who orchestrated Vader's birth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think because that's a Force vision. What he goes through there is a Force vision. And it's said by, is it Maddox, whoever the other Sith is, that you can't trust everything that's shown to you there.
Yeah, I kind of...
So I don't take that on face value. I was like, yeah, that's a possibility.
And I know it's been kind of like, that was kind of already said in the Plagueis novel, I think. It was already kind of set up
hinted
that way.
That he did.
I think from what I understand, it was explicitly said, but I kind of don't care, to be honest.
Okay.
It's weird because I saw that and I was like, oh, I feel I should care more about that when I saw it, but I was like, oh, that's just a really good representation to me of like what he was born into. He was born into this. Like,
But he wasn't. It was interesting because like there's a panel before they go to that where after he kills all of the Jedi,
Yeah.
and he's walking up the temple steps, and the last two people he sees before he gets to Padme are Palpatine and Obi-Wan.
right.
And the panel is just labeled "I am your father."
Yeah, that's true.
It's like
He could choose.
he could choose which one. Yeah.
That, and which I thought was a
Very
great.
symbolic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which made it much more symbolic to me than literal to me.
Yeah, I think the thing that got me ultimately actually was the representation of Luke.
Just
Like,
blasting him away.
no, later the representation of well, yeah, but seeing Luke but not seeing his face.
Yeah.
Felt very much like the Force, like Luke's vision in the cave, like the flip side of that.
Yeah, the reverse version.
Because
of this
instead of seeing himself, he just sees this sort of like
silhouette.
yeah, the silhouette and this just like crazy potential and this crazy blazing like force of this beacon that's still calling to him, but that he's just not willing to submit to.
Right.
You know, but it's a faceless beacon at the moment. Like I love that you can see the jumpsuit.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
in it.
It's so obviously Luke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Empire, you know.
Yeah.
So I thought that was cool, but I thought like again. The symbolism of it all
Yeah.
was more important than necessarily the literalism of it. And I think that was sort of the case for this entire issue. Like, because I heard someone being like, I've heard people be like, "Oh my God, what's the poster of young Anakin
Right.
with the shadow of Vader?" It's like, "Oh my God, it's canon now." It's like, who like that's first off. You're not using canon in the right way at that point. Like, that's not really like a plot point that would be considered canon. It's just like it's taking a very cool
iconic image.
Yeah.
That was used for promotion.
Yeah. And kind of integrating it into sort of like this Force vision.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was.
You could say it. I guess you could make an argument that it's canon.
You could make an argument that it was canon because it's a dream that he has.
Yeah.
And he's because he's remembering all of these things that have taken place up to that,
true.
including the fight with Ahsoka and all that. So I mean, like
that.
You could
that was one of those that got
me.
me.
That was good. That was really good. But you could make a case that okay. So he saw a shadow of himself as Vader. Okay.
Yeah.
That seems weird. Like it seems like that he would make a bigger deal out of that,
right?
Like, oh, holy crap! Like I saw this when I was a kid, kind of a deal. But I don't know.
You probably should have told that to Qui-Gon early on,
right? Yeah, like I see myself in like this big helmet.
Yeah,
large.
I'm like 6'1". I have a voice of a black guy.
That's one thing that struck me really odd about the Vader character.
He chose a black guy's voice?
No.
Oh.
No, but voice. Like, Anakin is so talkative.
Yeah.
And so chatty. Like, he's very much Obi-Wan like that. But as soon as he becomes Vader, he shuts up, man. You can't get more than, like, out of this guy. Like, that's it for the entire run. I bet he doesn't say more than 3 paragraphs.
Yes, that's true. So this is where,
I don't mind it. It's just
we know cinematically why you want to make him intimidating. You want to make him as empty and faceless and menacing as possible. So we know why from that perspective. I want that's also like from a storytelling perspective and from like how much time you ultimately get with Vader in the original trilogy. I wonder, like, when you do see him and you do talk to him, he is chatty then.
Yeah.
Like He goes, and that's why I never had a problem with his choke on your aspirations
No,
line.
it's great.
I always liked it. I know plenty of people, you including, didn't like.
I mean, it's a dumb line, but it's right in character.
It is. Yeah, thank you. I could make the argument if you are going to stay with the interpretation that Anakin is super chatty, and maybe. Like, he is so divorced from himself that he's shed so much of who he was and has finally, like, in a way, he's so intimidating because he can focus in a way that he never has before. In some ways, he's almost, an interesting lesson that he kind of learns in issue number 25 is, so the dark side is about attachment, right? But the Force, even through the dark side, teaches him to let go of everything finally.
Mm-hmm.
It is fine. Like, even though Yoda has been like, hey, you need to let stuff go, otherwise you're going to go down the path of the dark side. The dark side, for him to truly be a master of the dark side, he did actually have to let go, which is, I think, it's made me kind of question our interpretation of the dark side, or maybe maybe I'm overanalyzing it, but
No, I don't think so. And I'll tell you how I interpret that. Like, I think you're right. I think that I think our interpretation traditionally, and it makes sense, and I think overall it's probably true, of light side versus dark side, Jedi versus Sith, is very dualistic in how it's approached. Like, it's very Greek mythology in how it's approached too. And I think, like, in recent years that they're moving more towards an Eastern philosophy in which it's not dualistic, that everything kind of has a cycle and a place in itself, that dark is not necessarily the enemy of light, it's just a cycle thereof, and the two are intertwined, more of a yin-yang kind of idea. But they both are there to teach us different things at different times. And I kind of feel that way with this Vader story, and the way that, like you said, with the attachment to Padme, and he finally sheds that and is just like, F it all, burn it all down, I'm done. They're not going to use this to manipulate me. Because, like, when Palpatine gives him Padme's ship, like, it hurts him so badly, and Palpatine just rolls through it like, gotcha, motherfucker. I mean, he's just so brutal, and then he just dive bombs into Mustafar with the ship and just burns the ship to a crisp, almost killing himself and everybody along with it, to scar this thing, this perfect ship, and mutilate it like himself. And then he has the experience of the Force vision, where even there, the dark side won't save Padme for him,
right? And
forces him to let go, and that's that. I think that there's probably value in that interpretation of the Force. Like, I kind of like that Force. As I'm getting older and a little more mature, like, I like less dualistic things.
For sure.
And I also like the idea of being less attached to things, and I think I think bad times have that effect on us, right? Like, that's a truism of life, of, like, you learn more in defeat than you do when things are going perfectly. And I think Anakin / Vader is a prime example of that. Like, he never learns when things are going well, but he's so talented that things always go well. And then finally something goes bad for him, and it goes so bad he doesn't know how to handle it. And it takes him a long time and a really painful process to learn some real basic lessons that that people have been trying to teach him all along. So I think like, ultimately, like, that's kind of the moral lesson and the moral curve of this entire arc of Vader, is, like, all these lessons of the different Jedi trying to teach him, or that he could have learned along the way, and he didn't until the very end, and he still learned it through the dark side.
Right.
But that allowed him then to be redeemed by Luke at the same time.
That's true.
That without that lesson, he probably he would have been so married to the idea of getting Padme back,
right,
that he probably wouldn't have listened to Luke.
Yeah.
That was my thoughts on it as I was like flipping through. I was like, oh, interesting. Like if he's still so attached to the idea of saving Padme,
yeah,
is he able to listen to Luke in the throne room in Return of the Jedi?
Yeah, with that possibility, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, because the Emperor would have just used Padme as a way to control him again.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that's a fascinating angle on it. I didn't know about that. So, well, let me ask you this: any other big standout moments for you? Any arcs that you like? Characters that showed up?
I love how he gets his lightsaber.
Yes.
And the idea of like having to kill a Jedi, take their lightsaber, and then pour all your anger and hate into the kyber crystal and make it cry red.
Yeah.
that's how they get their sabers. I thought that Jedi was fascinating.
Yeah, the guy who took the Barrage vow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Barrage vow is a really interesting concept too.
Exactly. Yeah.
Of like, I'm just not going to get involved. I got to take a timeout.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like a self-imposed timeout from the Order was interesting, but but again, this going back to what we were saying about like the flaws of the Jedi, like he's so eager to get back and fight.
Yeah.
And that is ultimately his downfall.
Right. Yeah, because there's an arrogance
of his skills and what he can do. And he's so arrogant that he doesn't think about the other people around him, and Vader uses that to defeat him.
Yeah. Oh, does he? Oh, sweet God! I read that page and I was like, did he just what?
Yep, he sure did.
Holy shit! He just destroyed that whole village.
Destroys a whole town. Makes the Jedi watch it.
Yeah, and then kills him. Like I read that. I read those couple pages like 3 or 4 times, and I was like, oh my God! What
did I just see?
Yeah.
It gets pretty dark. He does some really intense things. Oh, you know which one I really liked?
Yeah.
And I thought was a really interesting character study was when he asks Tarkin to hunt him.
Yes.
That was fascinating.
Yeah. That was very interesting.
It was almost like I think Tarkin misread. I think he was actually trying to kill himself.
Yeah.
He thought Tarkin would probably be the only person in the galaxy that would be cunning enough to kill him.
Right.
And Tarkin failed.
Yeah. I don't know if I go that far. I think there's still, the instinct for self-preservation.
For sure.
And
he wasn't going to make it easy for him.
Right, but also that there were certain things that because he had divorced himself from Anakin that he still wanted to live, but there was that part of him that I think that still that tiny part of Anakin that was still there, was the part that wanted to die.
Yeah. I mean, he's so tortured.
Yeah.
He's so tortured.
Yeah, yes, he is.
And I was amazed, and I really liked it how often he gets his suit just trashed.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Like every 3 or 4 episodes, he's rebuilding that damn suit.
Right. It's like the way Obi-Wan was talking about his lightsaber. Felt like the Palpatine needed to come in and talk about the
oh
suit.
my God! All right, we'll build your suit again. You know what? You build it this time. I'm tired of
I do like
it.
that he tweaks it and works on it. It was a nice oh yeah, right. He is an engineer.
He is an engineer at heart. Yeah. And that made sense. Like the whole. The old version of like Palpatine built this suit and he intentionally used old crappy parts and limited his powers and stuff like that. It is a cool story, but it doesn't make a lot of sense based on what we know about Anakin.
Not at all.
Yeah. So this made a lot more sense and felt a lot truer to the newer updated versions of the character that we now know.
Right.
Makes a lot more sense.
An arc that I particularly liked was the Mon Calamari.
I knew you would.
Yeah, I love my Mon Cal.
I know you do. Raditz is a badass.
Right?
He's such a badass.
Oh my God, Raditz. Well, we had already seen Akbar and King Lichar in Clone Wars, so it was nice seeing those characters. It was really cool kind of seeing like, oh, here's someone who helped them fight now on the other side of it. I thought it was like I got a chance to rewatch those episodes as that part of the series was happening. So it was really kind of cool having that fresh on your mind of knowing how far Anakin goes to help them, and now he's there just destroying and pillaging.
But taking all that information that he already has,
Yeah.
and just destroying an entire planet.
Yeah. So I thought that was fascinating. But I also thought it was very interesting. I think Bar was the name of.
Oh yeah, the one with the horns that's broken and the one's broken off.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was really fascinating seeing the way he worked. I thought it was crazy just the fact that he used his Jedi mind trick on people to convince them to join him.
Yeah.
It was a very like, oh, this is, I know he has a good cause, but this isn't right still.
Yes.
It was a very interesting picture to create of a Jedi. So, like, when you mentioned, like, oh, the Jedi are learning things about, that brought about their downfall and are, having to relearn those lessons, I thought, like, that, when you mentioned that actually jumped out as one of those moments.
He was so painfully obvious.
Yeah.
Of, like, so far off the path. But he was also right. Like, he kept claiming that the Force had given him a vision that this would start a rebellion, and then another rebellion past that with the Mon Calamari ships.
Yeah. That
it is true, but how he goes about, like, recruiting people is, like you said, it's so manipulative. You know, and he's just getting people. He's killing. What he said, I killed billions to save trillions.
Yeah.
And he's completely okay with that.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta understand the desperation of it, but at the same time, it's kind of like, this is, you're not.
Ends justify the means.
Yeah, and how much better are you really than your enemy at this point?
Right.
So,
right.
I thought
it was heartbreaking, like, because as each one of his apprentices die, they go back and show, like, their reason for joining, and it was heartbreaking, and he's just so callous about it.
Yeah.
I'm just like, all right, next, keep going, guys. Right. It was interesting just to see, and I thought that was a fair representation of what the Jedi had become.
Yeah.
Like, their arrogance of like, it doesn't matter, like, whatever we see is right. And, it goes like in World of Warcraft, the light only sees one path that it believes to be true versus the void, which sees everything and thinks they're all true.
Right.
Like, the Jedi have, like, this very clear vision of, like, this is how it, at that time, these Jedi look at it and go, this is how it is. Everything is the Jedi way, and whatever.
Right.
Like, and Palpatine talks about that, like, how they would just go and they would just pilfer other sites and other religions and just absorb take all of their stuff and bring it back to Coruscant.
Yeah.
Without any consideration of what it meant to anybody else.
Right.
Right. And even in the way they handle the younglings, like, they just show up and just grab a kid and be like, all right, well, we're taking this one.
Right.
Guess you're going to have to be okay with it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's sort of a...
They were awful.
Yeah.
They were awful.
It really is.
They really were
are.
awful. Yeah, like, that version of the Jedi is horrifying. Like, that is good. That is good intentions gone wrong. That is like, every great society and every great movement always eventually starts to, like, succumb to its own internal pressures and politics and just start to crumble from within. And that's, you see that so on display in this series with every Jedi that he comes across and kills.
Yeah.
Like, it's so beautifully laid out.
Yeah. I do also, I want to mention another moment in that particular part of the run. Using Order 66.
It was brilliant.
that was an oh shit moment right there.
It was brilliant.
And it was that moment where I was like, you know what? I can kind of see you might want to phase out clone troopers after that.
They're just a little too dumb.
Right?
They're a little too eager to follow orders. Yeah. Although... Here's the thing that bothered me about that moment. Was, like, he just goes, Order 66. Like, what happens if they're, like, in a restaurant somewhere and something? All right, Order 66 is up. Just start blowing everything up.
That's the deleted scene of Dexter Jettster's diner.
That's how that ends.
At the beginning of Revenge of the Sith. That was actually the original opening.
Yeah.
It was
Order
not the
66 up. Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
They just start blowing everybody
And then
away.
you just see the smoke over the diner, and then you cut to the top of Coruscant in the big space battle.
That would have been great foreshadowing. It would have been great. Might have made that movie a little bit better.
Right.
Yeah, that was really cool, but it didn't make sense that the clones would accept that order from just anybody.
Yeah, well, it was a chip or something, I think was what it was
Yeah,
supposed
but
to be.
still.
Yeah, I guess it should matter who you're getting your orders from.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Yeah. Order 66.
Although I guess like the idea is, well, so yeah, like it's just crazy because like
yeah, it should matter.
It should matter because at any point in time, a clone could try to kill a Jedi. At any, it would have unraveled all of Palpatine's plans.
Well, I mean, you do get a little bit of that in
the
Clone
Bad Batch.
Wars. Yeah,
the Bad Batch.
Well, not Bad Batch, but yeah, something like
yeah, where they get but it wasn't the same.
Yeah,
like
you're right.
Where it was just like, oh, hey, they heard the words.
Yeah,
and just went for it.
You just went. Yeah. Yeah,
that didn't make a lot of sense, but I liked how they used it. It was funny.
Yeah,
and it
was cool.
I liked the Inquisitors.
Yes, I was going to say
really
that.
liked the Inquisitors. I thought they were fascinating. Ninth Sister made me laugh a lot.
Right?
She was pretty badass.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting, just like how Vader just.
He really does not like him.
No.
He's a one-man show.
Yeah, he is so just like it. This is my gig. I don't need any help.
Right.
And it's how interesting to like how little he trusts them, too.
Yeah.
Like when he's with Ninth Sister, he takes Ninth Sister to that to find the one Jedi, and the family bounty hunters attack him, and he accuses Ninth Sister like immediately. Is like, you did
He's
this.
on top of that.
He's like, I'm not putting up with your crap.
Right.
And she's just like, whatever, dude. You already cut my eye out.
Yeah.
She does not take any of his crap, which I thought was funny.
Yeah.
The Inquisitors are interesting. The Grand Inquisitor, his interaction with Vader in the beginning is really interesting too.
Oh yeah. Who already was a great character to begin with. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And his motivations made clear are really fascinating.
I liked his confrontation with Jocasta Nu and sort of his like being burned by the arrogance of the Jedi was sort of an interesting angle to take with that character. So that you give him a little bit more life now. So.
Yeah, and he had a really good point. Like the idea of like the Jedi hoarding the information and doling it out as they saw fit.
Right.
Is a problem, and there's going to be blowback for that, and again, the failures of the Jedi laid out every step along the way.
Right.
In this series, which is really the most interesting part of the series.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so too. I have to say Charles Soule is definitely one of my favorite writers in comics
masterful
right now.
storyteller.
I liked his Lando run a while back, and he has he's the Death of Wolverine guy.
Yep.
So yeah, he's fantastic for Vader. I am looking forward to he did a solid job with Poe Dameron, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he has in store next for Star Wars. Yeah,
he's great. He's
Yeah.
fantastic. It's a great run. If anybody hasn't had a chance to read it, I seriously recommend go out and get it. I'm hoping they put it out in an annual. It's one of those that I actually would like to have in a solid book form.
This is one that like I would love to give as a Christmas gift.
Yes.
To someone who is a big Star Wars fan,
Yeah.
and maybe not, even if you're not into comics, this
story is so good.
So worth it, especially for Vader's significance to the saga.
Do you think this goes down as like one of like the seminal stories of Darth Vader and of Star Wars? Like 20 years from now,
I feel like
as we're talking about like Star Wars, we go, oh, Soule's run on Vader is like really defines this character.
I mean, as long as you are talking to a comic savvy audience, yes, I think it is. It'll be interesting if it makes it past that audience. Yeah. If it makes it to people who would not normally pick up a comic book, but love Star Wars.
Well, I think the buzz that it got from like, oh, hey, we confirmed who Palpatine's his dad and used the Force or whatever.
Right.
Like I feel like that really
That
was a huge crossover moment.
I
where
think
they
so
were
too.
Like, oh,
I
hey,
think so
this is
too.
a thing.
But yeah, could this potentially be as big as I know it's a huge thing to say this, but like as big as The Dark Knight Returns or Death of Superman or like comics like that.
Well, it's harder because those characters exist solely in comics and then translate into movies.
I guess you're right. Yeah,
it's kind of apples and oranges because in this universe it's the exact opposite, where like the character exists in movies, and people go to the comics for ancillary information.
Right. Yeah.
I think it will ultimately.
Yeah.
I think it will cross over, and that as people talk about, like, I think it'll be held in sort of the same regards as his appearance in Rogue One.
Yes. Yeah, like this is one of those, like if you love Vader,
if you want to see badass Vader,
this is
the series to go to.
Yeah, and it very much is like seeing him like figure out like how to like deal with issues and like kind of troubleshoot his way through it is actually pretty fascinating.
Yeah,
and really kind of speaks to his ingenuity and to just how terrifying a villain he really is.
Yeah. And what a terrifying existence he has.
Yes, exactly. So, for me, like once this thing is collected all together, this is one of those things that I'll be giving out as gifts. Even if you don't like Star Wars, you're just gonna get this. Yeah.
This and Grist for the Mill by Ram Dass are going to be my 2 books that I just give out to people from now on.
Right.
It's so funny.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Namaste. Oh, you're going to love when he murders these Jedi.
You know what? I think one of the goals for the show is we got to get Charles Soule on the show at some point.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, I would like to pick his brain about like where he came up with some of those ideas and what he thinks, how he interpreted them as he was writing them.
Right. Yeah, his interpretation of the Force would be very fascinating just because of the version of the Force that we get here. So,
Yep. Yeah. And what the dark side is and the temple and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really curious about that.
Yeah, I was pretty excited to see the fortress get built and Darth Architect and his...
Darth Architect? I love that his hair sticks out of his helmet.
Oh, yeah.
It's so funny.
It's so good.
It's so funny.
Yeah, no, I loved Darth Architect.
He was pretty cool.
I mean, he's a candidate for a top 5 Sith Lord, if you ask me.
He's pretty cool.
And I love the gimmick of a bunch of guys dying while
Yes, as each version of as they're attempting it, they just reincarnate him.
Yeah, I thought that was sort of a fun bit.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, you can check out Darth Vader issues 1 through 25. All of them are available for purchase, whether you want that. Like an actual copy or digitally, it is definitely available. It is worth reading. It is worth talking about. This is one of those definitive Vader stories that you just got to check
Get
out.
into it, man.
So,
go do it. Yeah, this one is highly recommended.
Yeah, especially if you wanted more Vader in the suit before we get to A New Hope.
This is honestly what I really hoped Revenge of the Sith would be.
Exactly. I think that's you're exactly right. So anyway, you can check out all of that on our website, certainpov.com. While you're there, don't forget you can be a part of what we do on the podcast by joining us on Patreon, because we would love to be able to do these podcasts, the live streams, all sorts of other nerdy stuff, just to do them professionally. And that is not something we can do unless it is for your support, and you can do that by being one of our patrons through Patreon. Just go to our website, certainpov.com, to find links to that. Again, that is certainpov.com. And until next time, stay scruffy, my nerf herder.